Viewer discretion is advised. The following content includes graphic imagery and mature themes.
This isn't for the weak. And yes, feelings will get hurt. Brace yourself and welcome to the Hammer Drops. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sorry, a little technical difficulties right there. We are back. We are live. We are here to piss people off and be unapologetic about it, I suppose. So on today's show, first and foremost, I want to talk some news and some updates. We are going to a two show week platform, so we will be releasing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm currently in talks about getting onto another show as a fill-in or possibly even on a weekly basis. And with those shows will be released on Wednesdays. Now, you'll be able to find the shows on all your favorite podcast platforms, as well as Rumble and YouTube as well, as long as the content for YouTube, I don't see an issue with us getting banned from YouTube again. Brings me to social media. You can find us on all the social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that. If you go to our Facebook platform, there's a link tree in the bio description area. Go ahead and click on that. It'll take you to all of our places, and make sure you follow and like us on those platforms and give us a rating as well, because that's going to help us break the algorithms, and help us to get the truth out to more and more people. So if you can do that. Oh, also while you're there, make sure you leave a rating as well, because those actually help a great deal as well. So enough of self-promotion. Let's move on to the show. So on today's show, we are going to talk about ICE, the National Guard. I believe it's pronounced, I want to say whatever the hell it is. We're going to talk about how they're building a extension onto an Air Force base for themselves and their F-15 fighter jets. We're going to talk about that and a few other things that might pop in my head along the way. So first, let's talk about ICE. ICE is in the news everywhere. Everybody's so pissed off. And the funny thing is, it seems like it's mostly white suburbia are the main vocals when it comes to ICE lately, which I find comical, but who am I, right? I'm just an average white dude that just wants to get the truth out, and I'm sick and tired of the spin that these people are putting on stuff, right? So let's, first and foremost, I want to point out to you folks about on Friday, there was a WGN employee that got detained by ICE because of, supposedly what the video would say, like nothing happened, that, she didn't do anything wrong. She just got thrown to the ground and all of that. And that's how WGN reported it, to be honest with you, is they said, one of their own, didn't want to mention her name, got arrested, this and that. Now, it took about 5-6 hours later, then they finally came out with the truth that she got detained because she was throwing things at ICE. This is the type of spin that's always happening. And the person that recorded it, he came down out of the building, supposedly, and that's when he saw what was going on, and he started recording. And it's just like, okay, so you mean to tell me you just came out of the building and you started recording? Why is it? My question is, folks, help me out here. Why is it that that record button seems to work oh so well while something is happening, but that record button never seems to work prior to, want to talk about the action that caused the reaction from ICE, okay? And in the video, you can see the ICE agents being blocked in by a black SUV. What do you think they're going to do? Okay, so not only... Okay, so this lady, so it comes out finally by WGN that this lady was throwing rocks. I'm sure she's probably still employed by WGN, out there in Chicago. I could almost guarantee it, because they are so pro Democrat, it's not even funny. And so they finally, a nice quiet peace, after about a few hours later, finally acknowledging that she got detained for, you know, throwing stuff at ICE. All right, listen, if you throw things at ICE, if you block them in, you're impeding what they're supposed to do. So technically, that is a federal crime at that point. Therefore, you can be detained and arrested. Luckily, you just got detained and released. So chalk that up as a win. But what the problem is a lot of people are just assuming that it's just bad stuff happening and there's no reason for this to happen and this and that. And it's just like, folks, there's reasons for everything. And always remember there's two sides to the truth. Well, three sides to the truth. There's their side, your side, and then in the middle is the truth. So we have to be, we have to be a little bit more coherent to that. You can't take everything that you're seeing and you're hearing as, gospel, because it's not, because there's a spin on everything. You can't trust mainstream media whatsoever because they're going to lie. They've been lying this whole fucking time. Everything they are doing right now in mainstream media and in the government is just to keep us divided. Why do you think all this stuff is happening? ICE is keeping us all divided. They're trying to keep us divided by, racial tensions. Government, the two-party system was definitely put there to keep people divided, but unfortunately, people just don't see it. Or maybe they do see it, they just don't care. Either way, we as citizens need to wisen up, I guess you can say. So, yeah, we have that. And, now we have the National Guard that's coming in to places like Chicago and Portland. And people are all in an uproar. Again, it's mostly white suburbia. All the liberals that seem just want to bitch about everything without having facts. Let me explain to you. The reason why you have the National Guard coming in, okay, is because in cities, and this is what the mainstream media is not going to tell you, is because in these cities, the mayors and the governors and all of that have told their police forces to stand down if anything is going to happen to the ICE officers or federal agents. So what do you think our government's going to do? They're going to send in the National Guard, deputize them or federalize them to have them come in to be able to police the areas, to back up ICE, to back up federal agents. I mean, it seems pretty simple, right? I mean, it's, in Chicago, I mean, it was just, they're just so blatant about it. They're like, yeah, the police aren't allowed to do anything. So when an ICE agent gets blocked in or a federal agent gets blocked in by a group full of people and you have, say, 6, 7 cops on the corner, they're just supposed to stand there and do nothing. And that's exactly what they're going to do, is do nothing because that's their paycheck. So enter in the National Guard, and that's why they're here. The National Guard is not here to do, let me just get this spin out of here. They're not here to start martial law. So get that out of your head. You can't declare martial law. Nobody, the president can't do that without the backing of, like Congress and the Senate and all that stuff. And then you have the judicial system that can block certain things, as you see that they're trying to block, the deployment of National Guard and all that stuff to the cities. But unfortunately, with that, I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. I don't think they can really block that from happening, considering the way that Trump went around that and federalized them. So I'm going to look more into that. So don't quote me on that part just yet. So, I mean, essentially, that's what's going on. And what I find really funny about that whole scenario, right, is, the backstory and why the illegals are where they're at. Okay. So when they first came over, all these buses were coming to these states like Illinois, California, Tennessee, New York, all these big cities, right? And they were dumped into essentially black communities, into like the south side of Chicago, the west side of Chicago, into these communities that were already suffering. Now, when they dumped them off into these areas, not only did like Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago give, a debit card that had like $10,000 on it to every family that came in. Not only that, but they got free food, free room and board, a lot rent, healthcare, all of that stuff. You were essentially taken away from people in those communities that could use that money. And where were all of you when that was happening? And that shows that none of you have actually spent any time in these communities to see how run down they are, to see just the crap that a lot of these hardworking folks, unfortunately, they're stuck there and they're trying to make the best out of it. And they can't do that because your government officials have basically put the boot on them and they're not doing anything. So the hundreds of millions of dollars that went to the illegals could have went to these communities to better them, to give them more resources, to keep kids off the street, to have options for these families, the families that need it there. But you took that away from them because you gave a damn more about illegals than you did about your own citizens. And and nobody complained about that. But you want to complain about people being deported back to their countries, that have committed crimes, that are here illegally because, you know, they're from a prison in another country. They've committed crimes in other countries and they ran here because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said, hey, our doors are wide open. Come on here. Come on. Come on. We'll take you. And they moved them to these areas. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. They moved them to the areas to get for the votes so they can maintain their stronghold in those areas, or to create a stronghold in those areas for their votes. That's all of this was about from the get-go. And now people are crying martial law, Project 2025. This has nothing to do with that, folks. I don't mean to sound like an ass, but I'm going to sound like an ass, but use your fucking brains, okay? It feels good to be back, I'm not going to lie. I had to take a little quick drink because mouth's a little dry from, I haven't done this in a while. So that's ICE. That's why the National Guard's here. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you, but, if you impede on it, if you want to follow them around, beep your horn so people can be like, this is, watch out, they're coming. Get prepared to be arrested or detained. And that's just facts of life. And don't sit there and say that they did it for no reason. So there's a reason for everything. And do us all a favor. If you're going to record something, make sure you hit that fucking record button as it's all happening before the consequences come around. Show us what actually happened to cause the consequences so we can make it more, so maybe it's more believable on your end and people might actually take you a little bit more seriously than what it is. Okay. So that's it for ICE. That's it for the National Guard. Now, let's talk about Qatar, whatever the hell you want to call them. U.S. government just gave them the green light to, build an extension or build a base on the Air Force Base in Idaho to house their F-15s and what I'm assuming for training and all that stuff. This this one, I'm going to tell you right now, this one, I'm not happy about this one. I don't know what the fuck Trump's thinking. I don't know what Hexet's thinking, but why the fuck would you allow a country that has ties to Islamic terrorism, that have given money to Hamas, billions of dollars, in their conquest of, what happened in Israel? How do you think they were funded? I mean, we all know Hamas was funded by Iran. Millions of dollars came from Iran and billions came from Qatar. But yet here they are. They're about to build the base here in the United States out there in Idaho on the U.S. Air Force Base. I guess, many of us when it comes to 9/11, we know that there's something more than what the government has told us about that. But I mean, even if you just want to believe the narrative about 9/11, you got to be outraged by this. I mean, why would you want to have a country tied to Islamic terrorism in our backyard? That's like, hey, asking. That's just like asking, like, hey, do it again. We're okay with it. You're here, no big fucking deal. So that one, I don't know what the fuck Trump's thinking. That one doesn't make me happy. I know there's a lot of Republicans and conservatives out there that are not happy by that decision at all. Um, and yeah, we're gonna follow that one pretty closely. Um, Now there is one thing I my it was brought to my attention um that there was a transgender um I think it was a female to male. He was um a sergeant in the Air Force for over 15 years through Obama, through Trump and Biden and all that stuff. And now he's getting ready to lose his being kicked out of the military because he is transgender after serving 15 years in you know 15 solid years of service, and he's about to lose everything, medical, all that stuff. Now I am not for this whole transgender thing at all. I've expressed that numerous times in previous episodes that how against that I am, but I am not for if you let them in and if you let them serve. He obviously made his way up to master sergeant for a reason, and to kick him out, after 15 years of service because of this, and he did all the paperwork that he had to do and all that stuff to stay in the military in the last Trump administration, and all that, and now which those documents are effectively being used against him now to boot him out. I'm sorry, but that's not right. Let him just finish out. He's got 5 years until he can retire. Just let him finish it, man. Let him have his fucking his benefits. He's earned it. Okay, I don't care if he's transgender or not. He's earned it. And what our government is doing in that aspect is not right. I mean, if these people are already in the service, I mean, and I think this is the problem with a lot of Americans right now because it got jammed down our throats during the Biden administration about this. But let's be honest, 15 years of service to the military, going through what he was going through with the transitioning and all that stuff. And I don't want to sound like a liberal here, but the motherfuckers earned it, man. Just let him have it. All the people that are in the service right now that were transgender, making their thing, whatever, if they haven't done anything wrong, just let them continue to serve. I mean, it takes heart to do what they do, okay? For any military member to do. Obviously, their their counterparts in the branches that they're in, they don't have an issue with them. So why should we? They're just doing a job. Just let them be, you know? And I'm not trying to sound again, I'm not trying to sound liberal here, but I'm going to be fair. And the fair thing to do is just to let them finish out whatever they need to finish out. Okay. They're not hurting anybody. They're doing their job. That's it. The ones that are hurting the people are the ones we already know those. And we're not going to get into that again. If you want to get into that, go check out some of the older episodes that I have discussed that, and that will explain everything. But as far as this topic goes, because when it comes to the military, I've had two brothers that have served in both wars, and I have a very big heart for the military and the men and women in the military. So I will defend them as well as I can because they defend our sovereignty, our freedoms on a daily basis. And that's exactly what this gentleman did, regardless if he's transitioning from a female to a male. That shouldn't fucking matter as far as that aspect goes. And it shouldn't matter down the road either. But, and this is a whole, and I just opened up a can of worms here. This is a whole thing that could just spiral out, okay? But that's where I'm going to drop it right there. That's where it's going to stop. For this instance, for the military, he's got 15 years. Let him finish. And that's that. Um, and moving on. Whew. Who would have thought that I would have actually defended that, right? I mean, I never would have thought I would have defended that aspect of it. But, I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to be biased. So I'm going to defend them. Sorry. Well, if I offend you, I don't care. I'm I'm at an age in my life where I'm I'm not always going to be PC, I guess. And this is one of them. And this on this show, I will not be PC. I'm gonna speak my mind, and that's exactly what I'm fucking doing. So let the motherfucker finish out his duty to the United States military and move forward. Now, with that being finished, I'm gonna have another sip of my soda. Um, whew, man, this is this is fun. Okay. There's so much more that's been happening. Okay. I know it's so hard to just compile all this into one show. So, we're not going to do that. But so now I'm going to talk to you guys about like what I've been doing the last year away from the show. Um, I have taken my life to a different place, okay? I have started going through and starting to deal with a lot of the stuff I needed to deal with back then. With I do suffer from PTSD from things I have seen in my life. Recently, most recent was 2016. So I've been working on myself, and that's kind of why another reason why I've been taking the time away is so I can continue working on myself. And I can say now that I'm in a much better place, and my head is not it's really clouded anymore, I guess you can say. I don't know how else to put it. I'm just in a much better spot, much better headspace, much better spot. And if you've listened to any of my other episodes, my rhetoric has been very pro conservative, very pro Republican for a very long time. I'm not saying I'm not Republican. I'm not saying I'm not conservative. I'm not saying I can say I'm not Democrat. But the one thing I can say and I can promise you is that I don't trust our government as far as we can throw them. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care if you are Republican or Democrat. I do not support politicians. I do not support Republicans or Democrats. I support what's in the best interest of the American people. And so that is why on this show moving forward, if you're going to see me blast both sides, not like how I used to. I would only really focus on one side and I wouldn't really touch the other side, even though there's so many fucking things that they did wrong. And I can promise you moving forward, that's not going to happen. If the Republicans do something that's fucked up, I'm going to call them out on it. If the Democrats do something, I'm going to call them out on it. I don't care because you can't trust the government right now and exactly with everything that they're doing. It's just, yeah, you just can't trust them. And supporting a politician, supporting Trump. Do I support Trump? I voted for him. Doesn't mean I support him. I voted for him because he was the lesser of the two evils. I figured he would do the best at getting our country back to where it needs to get. Whereas Kamala Harris, we would have more of the Biden, Obama policies coming out. And we've seen what 4 years of that did. It nearly destroyed America. And now we are crawling out of the hole that they put us in. So if I would have voted for Kamala Harris and say she would have won, we would not be in the position we're in right now. We'd be far, far worse off. So I took the lesser of the two evils and I voted for Trump. Okay. Now, a lot of people constitute that as, oh, MAGA, MAGA this, MAGA that. No. See, here's the thing. I'm not MAGA. I'm not. And the reason why I say this is because I don't support politicians. See, when you support a politician, you put a politician on a pedestal, right? And you give your unwavering, undying support to said politician. I will never, and I mean never do that. Because here's the thing. If I go to, say, Starbucks, do I support them? No. Do I support the person handing me my food if I go through McDonald's? No. Do I support the person that's bringing me my food if I'm out to dinner somewhere? No, I don't. Just because I go to those places and I might eat or get something to drink at doesn't mean I support them. It means I like their product. And what people seem to, what people forget to realize is that when it comes to politicians, like you essentially elected them to do a job. Our tax dollars pay their salaries. They're technically an employee of ours. And people need to start remembering that. They work for us. Okay. Just like when you go to a store to purchase something, those people there work for that company, but they're there for us. If we have questions, if we have concerns, need to know something about the product, they're there to answer it. Same goes for our politicians. So don't put politicians on fucking pedestals. Don't support politicians blindly like that. Okay? Because how can you support that? Vote for the person, that's going to do the best for the situation, for the country and all that stuff. That's how I look at it. And that's, everybody's different, but that's how I look at it. So to all those that think I'm some MAGA fucking cultist or whatever, I can assure you I'm not. And I'm no liberal cultist or no cultist whatsoever. I am marched by the beat of my own fucking drum, and I will continue to do that till the day I die. So, with that being said, yes, the joys of running a podcast. And see, here's the thing: when I do this podcast, I like a lot of the times I get a million fucking my mind goes a million miles an hour, right? I get all these thoughts and all that stuff. So that's when, I'm not doing this at all scripted. Like I don't have a teleprompter in front of me that I'm reading from. All this is coming from my head. So when you see me stop and I'm just like, that's me because something just popped in my head that I'm just going to want to bring up. So with this show, this show is probably very unique in a lot of different ways because we don't use teleprompters. I don't write scripts. I go off the seat of my pants and there's going to be bloopers. There's going to be fuck ups. There's going to be this and that. I mean, hell, there could be a time where I'll start an episode and I'll just start talking and I'm just like, I lose complete track and I have to restart fucking recording it because, I don't have that screen in front of me that I'm just reading off of like a lot of these other big, platforms, podcasts, because, this show, I take pride in this show because this show, I'll never have this show sponsored by anybody. I don't want it sponsored by anybody. I'll never have it sponsored by anybody. This is a grassroots style show. My social media the same way. I won't monetize. I won't do any of that because I'm not looking to make money from this. I'm looking to get truth out to you. Unbiased truth and cut through all the bullshit. That's what I'm here to do. So that's something that you can continue looking forward to with me and know that I'll never have that sponsorship here because once you get a sponsor, they're going to try to dictate what you fucking do, dictate everything. And the last thing I'm going to let happen is anybody dictate my voice to you at all. So I promise you that 150% right there. See, here, just popped in my head right here, right? So I have a question. I see Candace Owens, right? She is going off about this whole Charlie Kirk thing. She will not let this down. And, some of the stuff that she brings up is very interesting. But again, it's like everybody, I'm a firm believer is when everybody's on the same page and everybody's attacking you like they are with Candace Owen and now Tucker Carlson on stuff that's coming out about Charlie Kirk, in trying to debunk what actually happened, they have everybody against them. So for me, when I see that everybody is, the narrative has changed and everybody's on the same page, and you see a lot of the big podcasts doing the same thing now, I won't name any of their names. They know who they are. Um, some big ones that have been around for a while that were friends with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson have spoken up about it and kind of bashed Tucker and Candace on their viewpoints, because they're critical, they're being critical thinkers and thinking outside of the box and not delivering a narrative that you need to believe that is true. And again, I'm a firm believer when everybody is basically saying the same thing, politicians and like semi celebrities or whatever, even celebrities, you got to sit back and kind of take what they're saying a little bit more serious. Um, I'm not, I don't know what happened that day. I saw it on the TV and, very disturbing. But I can tell you from what I saw on the TV that I didn't agree with the narrative from the get-go. So maybe Candace and Tucker and what they're saying has some, has some truth behind it. And we should really, at this point, maybe take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but we shouldn't dismiss it because, again, when has it been in the government's best interest to tell us the truth about anything? And we need to remember that because it's always in the best interest of our government to continue to lie to us, so we don't know everything that's going on. So remember that. That's something to probably live by. Our government is never going to tell you the truth. They're going to tell you what you need to know. And unfortunately, in today's society, today's world, uh, lying to the American people with propaganda, through through our media and all that stuff is just, I mean, that's been going on for decades. It's just been ramped up completely. So yeah, there's that. Trump, uh, he got that peace deal over there in Israel and between Israel and Hamas and Palestine now. Kind of weird how that happened a few days, maybe about a week after all those boats got fucking taken care of, boarded, and all those people got deported back to their countries by the IDF. I think that's kind of strange, but that's just me. And you haven't heard anything about those pro-Palestinians like coming out and thanking, for getting a ceasefire. It's kind of weird, right? I'm wondering if they're all going to be eventually going back to supporting Ukraine, but Ukraine, Zelensky, has come out and said that he wants to do a peace deal he wants Trump to do a peace deal like he did for Israel and Hamas between them and Russia. So, is Trump going to somehow come up with another peace deal? We will find out soon, right? We will find out about that very soon, I'm sure. But all right, folks. Well, that's about the time I have for today. I hope you enjoy the show. Don't forget to like, share, comment, give us a 5-star rating on social media and on the podcast platforms. It definitely helps with the algorithms. Definitely go check us out on our social media. You can find us over there on Facebook, where I'm most active between Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, it's the Hammer Drops, and on Instagram is the.hammer.drops on Instagram. And in those, you'll find a link tree that will take you to all of our other social media places, and feel free to follow us there as well. All the support definitely helps. It helps us break those algorithms, break the internet, so to speak, so we can get the truth out to more people. All right, folks. Until the next time, we will see you guys on Thursday with a brand new episode. And don't forget to find us over there on YouTube and on Rumble and follow us there as well. All right, guys. You all be good to one another.